Welcome to today's video, and in this we're going to explore the idea of changing your human operating system. So let's get into this. What do I mean by this? Why am I using this analogy of an operating system as if a human is a computer? But hopefully you'll see the benefit of why I'm speaking about things in this way. So let's start off with thought. So for most people have, so I'm told, 70,000 thoughts a day. I'm not sure how they measured that. But do we really need 70,000 thoughts a day? So this 70,000 thoughts a day is what I'm going to call the normal world. Operating system. And these thoughts, 70,000 of them, form this shell, all going on constantly. And inside here, inside this shell, is what we can call a me, or the conditioned mind. So, as you probably noticed, a life run on thought, or another way you could look at this, is this shell is the ego. And very few of us actually get to question this, because this shell, this constant stream of thoughts, seems so much to be who we are. We assume that we are thinking these thoughts. But all you have to do is a very simple experiment, which is to, probably you've heard this many times, which is just to see if you can stop yourself thinking and see how well you do with that. So the minute you start to question this, you may notice something else. And I'm going to make a proposition here that this operating system of thought is actually blocking out what might be called the radiant mind. So this radiant mind, you might even say, another word many people have called this, the natural mind. And what are the characteristics of this natural mind? Well, you could say it's spontaneous, if I could spell spontaneous. You could say that actually this, as I've talked about before, is kind of a closed system. This thought shell, this thing, this barrier with you inside it. And you could say also that this outside, this radiant flow of mind, there you go, is the radiant mind. But it's also the magical mind. Yeah, and we think magic is David Blaine and Dynamo, but this is really real magic. So what exposes this? Well, there are things that you can do to change your operating system from this thought operating system to the radiant mind. So what happens here? Let's investigate this a little bit further. Now, if any of you have ever taken psychedelics, for example, you often encounter what's now been termed, I think, the dark mind. And what that means is that this whole thought process, this ego mind, is slowed down radically. And probably only up until about 10 years ago, it was assumed that when one took a psychedelic medicine, it was something that lit up this mind, that made this mind move more rapidly, and many, many areas of this mind, the brain, the mind, would become more active. But actually, it becomes less active. And another way is that it actually, in some ways, even simulates death. And when this slows down, obviously gaps start to appear. You're not having these 70,000 thoughts flooding in, this constant stream. And you see, this thought operating system relies on that constant stream to create this impermeable shell. Looks like a cell, doesn't it? And, you know, who's to say there may be other types of mind further out or nestled within. But let's just stick to this for now. So when this mind, thought mind, the shell of mind, the ego, the me, little self, small self, starts to go dark, it leaves gaps. And then this radiant mind, the magical mind, flows in. And you get to experience this spontaneous mind. This mind that is unconditioned. Your natural mind. So, obviously meditation and any other ways that I've already spoke about psychedelics to quieten the mind using the breath. But what I'm going to suggest is all of these techniques put together. By the way, I'm not suggesting that anybody goes out and takes psychedelics. So you have to come to that in your own way and always work with an experienced guide, I would recommend for that. But anyway, once this radiant mind starts to come in, you are, in a sense, experiencing the liberation from this ego mind, this shell, this thing that's always in the way and feels so uncomfortable. And you get a sense of what it's like before this mind showed up. And you realize that in some ways it's as if we've all been in kind of solitary confinement with no windows, and then suddenly the windows flung open And then you get to see this whole sense of what might be out here coming in. This freedom, this sense of freedom, this sense of liberation from what this mind does so well, which is fear. False evidence appearing real. Now, I'm not saying that thought has no use, because if you want to do something practical, then thought is tremendously useful. If you want to solve particular problems or create solutions, the thought system is very valuable and amazing. But in terms of actually creating a life that feels more wondrous, more spontaneous, more alive, it's like the radiant mind, your natural state of mind, will always give you that. Now, the more you use your breath, become conscious of your breath, and the more you use meditation, and the more you become aware, so awareness is key. Because awareness of how this works and the tricks that it plays and what it's up to gives you the opportunity to relax around this thought stream. And the more you relax around this thought stream, the more you see what it's up to, you automatically start to create these gaps where the radiant mind starts to flow into you, and you start to live more from this radiant mind. And this radiant mind is synchronicity. Like I said, magic, possibility. All these different things that don't really show up in this shell of ego. So the more you can notice that these thoughts that we hold so dear are not your thoughts, they're its thoughts. And it needs to keep this stream of thoughts going constantly in order for it to maintain this impenetrable barrier to the radiant mind. And this is really just trying to survive, this ego. It's just trying to survive in whichever way it can. And it survives by keep pushing itself to the forefront, making itself relevant all the time. Here I am, here I am, here I am, here I am. No gap in this constant stream of thought. Most of it, thoughts that you would never choose to have should you be in that position. And the other way, once you notice this and you bring your attention to this and you see what's going on, what you notice is that how many of these thoughts are completely irrelevant. How many of these thoughts have little or nothing to do with who you are. And as you become more aware of that, you get the opportunity, these gaps start to appear. And more of the radiant mind comes in. And it's that makes this switch over to this different human operating system. You could say your natural operating system. This is more who you are than this. This seems like everything who you are. But actually, this is more who you are. This is kind of the little imposter that's taken over the show. Yeah, and it just shows up all the time, everywhere. It seems ubiquitous. But really, it's not. And once these gaps start to appear, you see the flimsiness of this. You see this anxious little thing trying to keep itself going all the time. And living more, one other thing is that you start to see that parts of the radiant mind, thoughts, you could call them again, that are flowing in from the radiant mind, these are more based on feelings, I would say. You kind of feel the radiant mind more than think it. So things that flow in from the radiant mind have a different quality. There's a kind of what you could call an illumination. They're illuminated, and you start to recognize when something has that quality about it, and you start to trust it more and more. So I hope that helps you. And I'll talk more about this in other videos. Okay, big love, take care.